dad, man. Dad isn't always all right. In those moments, those days when you was driving the bus or working and then having to come back home and you're helping out with the conscious community, giving back, all those things. How did you stay sane with having so much on your plate and then having, days where I don't feel like talking or I don't feel like doing anything? How did you try to stay sane?
I try to stay sane because for dads, we don't really have time to get sick or be down. We would like
Yeah.
to, and we wait to the very last minute to go to the doctor or this and that. And it's not because we're afraid of doctors. We just know that the information we hear is not going to stop us from providing. I was providing for two households at one point because me and Malcolm's moms had separated.
Hmm.
So I still had my responsibilities there, which I'm never going to, abandon. And then I had my new life, and I could sense myself getting sick, and I just kept ignoring it and ignoring it because who has time to be sick? And that represents so many dads in this world who sacrifice so much. So I put up a piece about Father's Day. Every day I put up a blurb. It was like a 2-minute piece. And one of them was like a dad in sweatpants and dad hats. We don't have time to go buy stuff the way we used to. So when you see us in our sweatshirt and dad hat, it's because we made sure everybody else was good before we even thought about ourselves. So when we sit down to watch the game or this and that, don't bother us because it's been a long, long journey and long period. And so the conscious community, it kept me alive spiritually. You know what I'm saying? And I needed to spiritually have something to go after and be after. And so service to others, I'm Virgo, and that's what we do. So
Yeah.
service to others became very important to keep that alive because I needed something to do. And then
Mm.
as I got really sick, I kind of condensed my energy into the most important things. So I had to let the conscious community go. You know what I mean? I had
Yeah.
to let certain things go because my health and energy became, priority. And so as a result, when I needed time to just rest, my family gave it to me. When I needed grace for other things, my family gave it to me. And that ties into the support of if you're going through anything life altering in terms of health or whatever, that your family be there to provide that support because the number one killer of Black men and Black people in general is stress.
Mm.
Us taking on more stress than we can. And if we don't implode, explode, meaning we implode.
Implode.
And the
Yeah.
implode, the result of the imploding is this book.
Mm.
Okay? Gotta laugh to keep from crying. I didn't start living until I thought I was dying. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And so, yes, interesting.
I didn't start living until I thought I was dying, right? God, why is it so that every single time, whether we see it in movies, stories, where a person sees the light, now all of a sudden, and they want to travel the world, they want to do everything on the bucket list, but it's like, yo, the ancestors gave you all these previous days that you didn't maximize upon. Why is it always like that? To where once I know, dang, I might die, I'm trying to live now.
It's very crazy. I wish I had the answer because I could
Yeah.
deliver that to people to let them know every single day is a beautiful day. And whatever's on your list, go for it because tomorrow is not guaranteed. It's something about the finite aspect of the doctor said, listen, you have this and you have
Yeah.
6 months. Now, you could turn that 6 months into 6 years, 5 years, because no one truly knows when it's going to be. But it's amazing how, when the hourglass of your life seems to be coming to an end, you want to thrust in and do all of these fantastic things. I said this and I said it in the book, and I don't want people to take it or misconstrue my words. In some ways, kidney failure was the best thing that happened to me. And
Mm.
that's because I stopped taking anything for granted. The
Yeah.
last 20 years, I put 3 kids through college, put out 3 books, dropped 2 albums, toured the world, married the woman I wanted to marry, purchased a home, all of that within the last 20 years. I wrote hip hop that coded on what I thought was going to be my deathbed. All right. And so in that 20 years, life just opened up and became amazing. However, had I took that approach earlier in life, I still would have achieved all of these things, but with greater health. You know what I mean? And so do not wait until some doctor puts a timeline on your existence. First of all, that's crazy, but that's their expert opinion. And just every single day you wake up, you got to live it to the fullest, and you'll be surprised of the results that come out of that. Because other than that, I'm 56. I would have just retired from transit last year. I would have had to do 32 years driving a bus, content. The money is great, you know what I mean? But I would have missed out on so many opportunities to show who I am. You know what I mean? And so things happen for a reason, and these things happen to me, and I don't look at anything as a mistake in life. This is the hand I was dealt. No pity party, none of that kind of stuff. Let's go. Let's go.
Hmm. Love that, Dot. Man, my mom, she is an extreme Virgo as well, Dot. She's a busybody type A. Everything is like super analytical, rubbed off. But, knowing that you're a Virgo as well, how do you just try to stay busy during this season of not filming Urban X twice a week and doing all the content? As a Virgo, how do you just find peace right now in the calm and not trying to do 10 million things at once?
Well, that's a great question. The book
Thank
came
you.
about because of the extra time that I now had. You know what I
Oh,
mean? Because we weren't doing the podcast, I was able to Zoom, and this book is 15 years in the making, man.
man.
Just keep putting it off, because when you have to relive your life, there are traumatic moments that you have to revisit. And every time I reach certain points, I just put it down because I didn't want to deal with it. You know what I mean? However, this time off gave me the opportunity to just roll up my sleeves and deal with it. And as a result, the book came about. But Virgos are also hermits. Our
Yep.
astrological card is the hermit. We like our own company and our own private space. And so I always tell guys or people, if you're going to date a Virgo, we want you far away, but close by. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? All at the same time. We want you here, but not
Yeah.
here. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because we need space to think. We're analyzers, we're critical, overcritical thinkers at times. And sometimes we can get lost in our own critical thought process. So this book has kept me busy over the last 6 months. And now that the book is out, or pre, on a pre
Right.
order tip, people are starting to read, and I'm starting to get feedback. And we're going to move into that phase so that, I can help people through these, trying times that they're going through, because that's what
Mhm.
I'm here for.
Yes, sir. That as black men, man, we deal with so much trauma that's like unaddressed that we never talk about. But then, your granddad grows up, he's always quiet, but like we don't know why he's quiet. Or like your dad is this type of way, that type of way. How should we address our trauma now so then it's not passed off to the next generation?
Um, Another great question, and that is, we have to be a little bit more open. We
Mm,
have to be a little bit more. See, we've been conditioned to not say certain things or talk about certain
yeah.
things. We have to free ourselves. And for me, it started when I was diagnosed with kidney failure. For the first couple of years, I kind of just kept to myself. And then I said, why? You know what I mean? This is not a strike against me. This is what I'm going through. And so I put out an album in 2011 called Walk With Me. And
Yeah.
on that album, I started giving up my life. And it was so liberating and freeing. You know what I mean? And that I kind of, and then when other people who were going through something similar started hitting me in the DMs and saying, thank you. I needed to hear that, or I needed to know I wasn't alone, because we as men, we put on these shields of armor and we
Yeah.
try to be everything we are. And in the book, I speak about Black Dot being a superhero. But Dwayne, in order for me to cure, my ills, I had to go back to Dwayne. So that's why I started having people address me as Dwayne. Black Dot can handle anything, but Dwayne
Right.
is the one who needs the love, the care. And so when I started handing out these boxes, these Hero's Journey
Mhm.
exclusive, boxes to people with personal videos to each and everybody I sent it to, I had grown men in tears
Right.
because it opened up a portal of conversation of men and women, but in particular men telling each other, I love you, brother. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. I love you. I know you going through some things too. And let's put this on the table. And that's how I think we break the cycle from our grandfathers and fathers. These platforms we have are not meant for goofy stuff. It's a
Mhm.
place for it, but if you have an outlet and a platform for men to come on and be honest and open, we need it because
Yeah.
men are the one who are holding a lot of trauma in,
That's
a
right.
lot of trauma.
Yeah. Nah, man, that's facts, Dot. Seeing you as a father, right? I'm like, Dot, it's like a Swiss Army knife, right? Marcus is older, but then you got Malcolm, right? 31, and you had to raise him like in his own way. But then Eli, right? I see that. I'm like,
Yes,
man, having a son with cerebral palsy, I had friends, who have it in college, and man, just seeing how like independent they were and all of that. But then I'm like, I could only imagine as a toddler having to care for that child, love that
yes.
child. What type of challenges and stress did that place on you as a father during that time?
I go through it really in detail in the book, and because it was a trying time. The fact that he almost lost his life and a whole bunch of
Mhm.
things. But it was one thing my aunt said to me. She said, Eli's going to be okay because his parents are dynamic. And when she said it, it was a vote of confidence I needed. I knew who me and my wife were. And if anybody can get us through it, it was us because we just have this beautiful outlook on life. And so we
Mhm.
created an environment in the home where Eli could grow. We created an environment that allowed him to, become as independent as possible. We created an
Right.
environment of no pity in our house. So the butt of the jokes could be on him. It could be on anybody because we wanted to prepare him for what the outside world was really like. So when he got to
Mhm.
school and any kids try to snap, he was like, that's the best you can do. Listen, we
Right.
are vicious in our home, but it also taught us another level of sacrifice and patience because both of us were used to working and one of us had to sacrifice. And the
Mhm.
sacrifice came from whoever made the most money. That person stayed at work, and the other person stayed home because if anyone was going to care for his needs, we wanted it to be us. You'd be surprised on how other people treat your children when you're not
Mhm.
watching. And so we didn't want any of that. So we took sacrifices in terms of where we lived because the rent was nice and in our favor. We stayed in them places extra long just so that we could afford to do so. And those are sacrifices that people may know nothing about. You know what I mean? It was one time I had to call my wife because we had Eli at a babysitter, and the babysitter, she was older, and she just couldn't handle what Eli's needs were. And we knew that, and we didn't blame her for that. I called my wife and said, you have to leave your job, not now, right now because I was the one making the most money. I was back at transit, and my wife went to lunch and never came back. That's how in sync we were about where our priorities were as a family. And so that's what we did to get us through. And Eli was the glue that really kept the family together. There were trying times, but every time we looked at him, his smile, his energy, his love for life, uh, you know, it pushed us through. It really did.
Yes, sir. Hey, man. Hey, that's beautiful, Dot. Or I would say, in your own opinion, right? Do you think that your previous times, with your mom, those traumatic experiences from seeing things and seeing like the drugs, all of that, do you think that that impacted your future relationships with other women and things like that as well?
Well, not seeing my mother truly being loved by a man always plays a role in it. And
Mm.
so she was, a boyfriend's here, but always, vital and this and that. volatile, should I say.
Right.
And so men have to be taught how to love a woman. I don't care what nobody say.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's the subtlety of just seeing a man around your mother and how he treats your mother. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? When I got with Malcolm's mom's beautiful, beautiful sister, she was more advanced than I was. As a woman, she had already had Marcus, and just her thinking, I was just coming into a real relationship. I didn't understand how to look for emotional signals, a whole
Yeah.
bunch of things. And I was, tough. My mother, we was on the grind. And so I lived that out vicariously in that relationship. And I lost the relationship as a result of it. But then when I said, when I get into my next relationship, I'm gonna learn. And so in the current relationship I'm in, which is nearly 30 years in the mix, I said, I'm going to learn. And I learned to say, I'm sorry. I learned to
Mm.
recognize this is about sacrifice. I learned to recognize there's going to be some compromises. I learned that our money together, we work better as a team. And my children, Eli and Odyssey, have never existed without seeing their mother and dad. And they've
Mm.
never seen us acting other than the way as the king and queen. I'm not saying we don't have disagreements. That's parental stuff. They've never seen me out of character. And so innately, Eli knows when I get with my woman, I'm used to this. Odyssey
Mhm.
knows any man that comes into my mix, he's going to have these qualifications. And so this is where we learn also how to break those generational curses on how to love and treat a woman. And sometimes it takes brothers 3, 4, 5 times, whatever. But if you keep repeating and not changing and recognizing the mistakes you made, then the problem is you.
Ooh.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, that's good game. Dot. During this crazy time, right? The red pill stuff is going crazy. I had no idea it was that bad until I saw like young kids talking about girls. I'm like, man, y'all view women completely differently. Right now, man, how can we start to shift this younger generation viewpoint on women and especially black women to not always thinking that they're the enemy all the time?
that's going to be tough because as parents, I don't have the final say so anymore. I'm finding
Mm.
outside forces, the internet, social media, friends, unlike before when you had a direct connect, with the child and you could have a
Right.
little bit more impact. The world is moving so fast and these algorithms have created narratives. These are not even people half the time. These are
Hmm.
algorithms creating narratives to keep us split because never before in the history, and I've only been here 56 years, have I seen such a disconnect between men and women to where they are the ops. What? Man, we spent everything in my existence as a young man growing up was to get as close to a woman as I possibly could. I got a haircut for a woman. I
Yeah.
kept fresh sneakers for a woman. When I could drive and got my first car, I'm rolling around the block 6, 7 times for no reason at all, just
Right.
hoping. And so our dynamic was different. And to this point, now these women are coming in and they're saying they have these high standards. And I try to tell young women, all of these high standards you have, if you meet a man with all of that, why does he need you? Like,
Mm.
what are you bringing to the table? And don't tell me sex, please. That's the easiest thing for a man to get in this day and time. And
Yeah.
so, what I try to explain, even to my daughter, you have to meet somebody and y'all have to work towards this
Mm.
greatness. Everything I do, my wife has got her imprint somehow, some way on it. She designed these book covers, she edited
Yeah.
these layouts, she do these
Yeah.
videos. She stays involved to give me the opportunity to look great.
That's
But
right.
these generations, they want everything, you know what I mean, all in one.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing dynamic. So I can't compete with the internet. I wish I could,
Hmm.
And
Right.
so we're going to have a new generation emerge that
Hmm.
just their awareness is in a different space where they know there has to be more. Because even on my podcast, I spoke about when the generation shows up that can't be moved by money, that can't be
Mm.
bought, then the music industry, the record industry, all of that will collapse on itself. You know what I mean? But until then, as long as they could dangle some money in your face to make you do things, some things strange for some
Strange for some
change,
change. That's
yeah,
right. That's right.
then we're always going to be in a situation that we're in.